Millions of Americans are finally hearing the first real signs of financial relief, and this time it is coming directly from the Treasury Secretary himself, Scott Bessant. For months, households across the country have been crushed by rising food prices, unaffordable rent, debt piling up, and a job market that is weakening at the wrong time. And now, after weeks of shutdown chaos, Scott Bessant has publicly confirmed that new financial relief will be announced within just a few days. This is the first concrete signal that Washington is preparing some form of nationwide assistance. But the big unanswered question is, will this relief come as a direct $2,000 check? Or will it come in a completely different form? That uncertainty is why the next few days are crucial. Millions of seniors, low-income families, and working Americans want to know what kind of help is actually coming, and whether any of it will reach their pockets before the next wave of bills hits. This announcement matters right now because the pressure on everyday Americans is the highest it has been all year. Grocery prices remain elevated, rents are at historic highs in major cities, and millions of borrowers are behind on car loans, credit cards, and student loans. For many families, a $2,000 payment would provide immediate breathing room, while a tax-based benefit might take months before anyone experiences real relief. That difference, immediate cash versus delayed tax savings, is at the center of this debate. And because the Treasury Secretary confirmed that the announcement is coming this week, the country is watching closely. This is not speculation anymore. This is a direct statement from the top financial official in the United States government. And the shape of that relief will impact nearly every household. In his most recent interview, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant clearly stated that new financial relief for Americans will be revealed within days. He acknowledged the significant financial strain across the country and emphasized that the administration has been working on multiple forms of relief at the same time. These include tariff adjustments, targeted rebates, and potential changes in tax policy aimed at reducing pressure on households. What makes this moment significant is that Bessant is not speculating. He is confirming that a structured announcement is already on the schedule and will roll out shortly after the government fully reopens. This is the first time since the shutdown began that a top official has given a timeline. Instead of vague responses, Bessant explained that the relief plan cannot be finalized until the government officially reopens because important economic data, like inflation numbers, labor market reports, and consumer spending statistics, are frozen during a shutdown. These data points are essential for determining the size and nature of any relief package. Without updated data, the Treasury cannot model the fiscal impact or estimate how many people qualify. Once the government reopens, agencies like the Bureau of Labor Statistics will restart delayed releases. That means the relief package is expected to be shaped rapidly once updated numbers come in. In short, Bessant is telling the country, the relief is real, the announcement is imminent. But the final details depend on the shutdown ending and the data catching up. A major point Bessant made, and one many Americans may not like, is that the so-called $2,000 dividend may not come as a direct check. Instead, he suggested that the relief could be delivered through tax changes that reduce or eliminate certain taxes people currently pay. These include no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime pay, no taxes on Social Security benefits, and a new deduction for auto loan interest. While these changes do put money back into people's pockets, they do not create an immediate cash payment. Instead, the benefit is spread across months or even delayed until tax filing season. This raises a major concern. People who need food, rent, and utilities paid today cannot wait months for reduced tax liabilities. This strategy resembles what analysts refer to as relabeling, taking financial benefits that already exist in other forms and calling them part of a new relief program. Critics say this is similar to what many referred to as Biden math during the previous administration, when tax credits and existing programs were repackaged as new assistance. The problem is simple. Americans struggling to afford basic needs are not looking for policy reshuffling. They need direct, immediate relief. A tax change is still relief, but for someone behind on rent or paying $25 for groceries that used to cost $15, the impact is far less immediate. This is why many Americans prefer direct payments over tax-based relief, and it explains why the public reaction to Bessant's statement has been mixed. Bloomberg analysts and policy experts reviewing Treasury statements say one thing very clearly: direct checks in 2025 are unlikely unless the Supreme Court intervenes. The entire $2,000 payment concept is built around tariff revenue, the same tariff revenue that courts have been questioning. If the Supreme Court ultimately rules against the administration's use of tariff-based funding mechanisms, the government loses its main source of money for direct dividend payments. That means the administration must rely on Congress to authorize new funding, which is difficult during a shutdown and even harder in a polarized political climate. Additionally, the shutdown itself is preventing cash payments from being designed or distributed. Relief packages require full government operation, coordination between Treasury, the IRS, and the Federal Reserve, and legislative approval if new spending is involved. During a shutdown, this machinery is frozen or heavily restricted. Even once reopened, the government must restart economic data releases, rebuild schedules, and review the fiscal space available. This multi-step process means that even if Congress and the White House agreed tomorrow, sending out direct checks in 2025 would be extremely difficult. This is why analysts repeatedly say that if checks do happen, they would most likely arrive in early 2026. Not this year. Election timing plays a major role in when financial assistance is approved. If relief checks are introduced too early, political parties lose the ability to use them as a campaign tool. If they are introduced too late, voters may not feel the benefit soon enough to influence voter turnout. This is why many analysts believe 2026 is the strategic year. Early enough for Democrats to support it during legislative negotiations, but late enough for Republicans to claim credit during midterm campaigns, policymakers understand that relief payments often become defining election year issues. The 2026 timing also matches the schedule of congressional sessions. Large-scale relief packages typically require bipartisan cooperation, especially when tax changes or new spending are involved. Introducing such a package in early 2026 gives committees and lawmakers enough time to review it, amend it, and negotiate final terms before presenting it to voters as a legislative win. Meanwhile, political parties can use the debate itself to energize their bases. This is why experts do not expect any major payment program to roll out in late 2025. Lawmakers prefer maximum political advantage, and the calendar shows 2026 is the sweet spot. If a relief check does eventually move forward, the income limits will be strict. During the interview, it was made clear that the administration opposes sending payments to individuals earning more than $100,000. In fact, based on previous Republican-supported relief programs, the realistic income cutoff is much lower, somewhere between $75,000 and $80,000 for individuals. This mirrors income caps from earlier federal stimulus programs, where payment phases were carefully targeted to avoid sending money to higher-income households. These income limits are not guesses. They are based on historical precedent. Congressional Republicans consistently oppose high-income eligibility for relief programs and have repeatedly challenged attempts to provide broad-based stimulus checks to individuals earning over $100,000. They argue that high-income households are less affected by inflation, job instability, and rising interest rates. This makes it highly likely that any future $2,000 dividend would be targeted toward middle and lower-income families, with strict eligibility criteria designed to keep the overall cost of the program manageable. The government shutdown has frozen critical economic data that the Treasury and Congress rely on to design relief programs. Agencies like the Bureau of Labor Statistics cannot release jobs reports, inflation readings, or consumer spending data during a shutdown. This means policymakers are operating without updated information, making it nearly impossible to finalize the size or structure of a relief plan. For example, inflation may be trending higher than anticipated, which would require stronger relief. Or job losses may be accelerating, requiring a more targeted approach. Without this data, both Treasury and Congress are flying blind. Once the government reopens, experts expect the economic data to show three major trends: a cooling labor market with fewer job openings, persistent inflation above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, and moderate economic growth that is not strong enough to offset rising household costs. If these trends appear in the next set of reports, lawmakers, especially Republicans, may feel more pressure to approve stronger financial relief for American families. A negative data cycle could push the administration to revive the $2,000 dividend concept or expand tax-based benefits. In this way, the economic numbers released after the shutdown will directly influence what kind of relief Americans receive. As part of the upcoming relief plan, the Treasury Secretary confirmed tariff reductions on essential food imports such as coffee, bananas, and a range of fruits. This reduces costs for distributors and retailers, which can help lower grocery prices for consumers. Food inflation has been one of the most painful issues during the last year, and lowering tariffs on widely consumed items is a targeted way to reduce pressure on families without needing congressional approval. For many households, a reduction in food prices provides quicker relief than waiting months for a tax refund. This move also operates as a political strategy. The administration has faced increasing criticism over affordability issues, especially as families spend a larger share of their income on groceries. By cutting tariffs on products that Americans buy regularly, the Treasury is signaling that it recognizes the hardship and is taking actionable steps. Economists believe these tariff cuts could have a measurable impact within weeks, depending on how quickly distributors adjust pricing. While this is not the same as a direct payment, it is a form of relief that can soften the overall cost of living. President Trump continues to publicly support the idea of a $2,000 dividend for American families. Despite legal and financial uncertainties, he has repeatedly posted about it on social platforms, describing it as a rebate or dividend funded through tariff revenue. His messaging indicates a desire to provide broad relief and address the affordability crisis hitting millions of households. However, these public statements have sometimes surprised even members of his own administration, including Treasury Secretary Bessant, who has acknowledged that discussions are ongoing but decisions are not finalized. Observers note that Trump's push may be influenced by growing public frustration over rising costs and the perception that government action has been too slow. By promoting a bold, simple idea like a $2,000 payment, he positions himself as an advocate for immediate relief, even if the actual implementation is complex. At the same time, political analysts warn that raising expectations without delivering could create long-term credibility issues. This is why Treasury officials are cautious. They do not want to overpromise financial relief before legal and budgetary details are settled. When the shutdown ends, federal agencies will immediately restart delayed economic reports. These include updated employment statistics, inflation measurements, wage data, and consumer behavior trends. The Treasury and Congress will use these reports to determine whether the country is entering a slowdown, recovering, or facing higher than expected inflation. If the numbers show that inflation is rising again, or the labor market is deteriorating, policymakers may feel forced to approve stronger relief packages to prevent households from falling deeper into financial distress. Many economists believe the data will paint a mixed but concerning picture: slower hiring, inflation that remains stubbornly above the target level, and economic growth that is no longer strong enough to shield families from rising costs. If this forecast proves accurate, the pressure on Congress to approve tax rebates or direct payments will grow significantly. This could revive stalled discussions about $2,000 dividends or lead to new relief proposals entirely. Ultimately, the post-shutdown data will decide whether relief remains tax-based or shifts toward direct financial support. As of today, only part of the relief package is fully confirmed, primarily the tariff cuts on essential food items and the Treasury Secretary's statement that a broader relief announcement will be made within days. No official confirmation has been given for direct $2,000 checks. No eligibility criteria have been finalized, and no payment schedule has been released. This means Americans should expect relief, but they should not assume the final package will include direct cash payments. The Treasury emphasizes that the shape of relief is still under internal review. Several options are being considered, including tax cuts, rebates, tariff reductions, or a hybrid model. The only certainty is that the administration has decided that relief must happen, and soon. The country is dealing with rising living costs, growing debt stress, and delayed government operations due to the shutdown. This combination makes financial support inevitable, even if the exact form is not yet decided. Once the government reopens and economic data becomes available, the final relief decision will be made and announced. Thank you for watching. Relief is finally on the way, but the exact form, direct checks or tax-based benefits, will become clear once the Treasury releases its official announcement in the coming days. I'll keep you updated with every new development. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to Social Security Post, and drop your questions in the comments. Your concerns matter, and I'm here to explain every update as clearly as possible.